Well, greetings once again from Yuba City, California, home of this pink fish, the famous Yuba City water tower, and of course, hundreds and maybe thousands of feral chickens that roam every parking lot in the land. Standing here in the old downtown of Yuba City, the historic downtown, Plumas Street, because in addition to having historic roots dating all the way back to the gold rush era of California, and John Sutter, whose mill, by the way, they first discovered gold at in California. That didn't actually happen here in Yuba City, but he did have his pig farm here in Yuba City. This town also has some very important history dating back 30 years as of the day I'm standing here, because Yuba City, California is the birthplace and the hometown of my wife, Allie, which is why we're down here, to get her some morning coffee and kill some time until the big family birthday dinner tonight. And to do that, I want to dig in to a little gold rush era history, not in Yuba City itself, but right across the river in an even more historic gold rush town, Marysville. It is located just across the Feather River, actually wedged between the Feather and the Yuba rivers. The town of Marysville today sits here protected by a whole bunch of levees on all sides. As you can see over there, that little green hill rising up. And in 1849, right where that little hill is, right where this little park is, Plaza Park, this was the riverfront where steamboats would come up the river system from San Francisco or Sacramento and drop miners off here in Marysville. And from there, they would head up into the hills in search of the rich stuff at the peak of the gold rush. At one point, Marysville was so popular, so flooded with gold miners, it was actually the third largest city in the state of California. And some of the buildings down here, like this one, the Silver Dollar Saloon, traces its roots all the way back to the 1850s. Now, of course, there were fires down here. It was rebuilt a couple of times, but the current structure dates probably from the 1870s. There's a beautiful old 19th century bar inside. And right behind the current building for the Silver Dollar Saloon is one of the oldest surviving Chinese temples in the state of California, dating all the way back to the Gold Rush period, founded when this was facing out towards the river. Again, rebuilt, I think, in the 1880s. People of Chinese descent in California still visit that temple and conduct worship in there. Bok Kai is a river god out here, so very fitting for Marysville if you're Chinese to be worshiping your ancient river god back there. Matter of fact, they still conduct the Bok Kai festival down here in Marysville every year, and there are still a whole bunch of surviving remnants of one of the oldest Chinatowns in the state of California. As you can see, there's still a lot of Chinese heritage on display down here up against the levee. And also two of the oldest Tong Society buildings in California are sitting right here in Marysville's Chinatown. Now, some Tongs sort of turned into organized crime organizations, running gambling rings and prostitution rings, opium dens, things like that. It's not actually what Tong societies were. They were formed among the immigrants, almost like fraternal societies. So they take care of burials, they take care of labor contracts. This one right here is the Hop Sing Society building, one of the oldest societies still practicing today. And it's relatively modern as it looks, mostly because of that brick down there on the bottom looks kind of mid-century. This building was actually built in 1918, again, replacing other structures that burned down in the past. And then the other one over here, this is the side of the building we're looking at now, is the Sui Sing building. Again, there was an older building that burned down. This one was built in the late 1930s and now has a Chinese American museum inside. The Chinese American Museum of Northern California. It's open on the first Saturday of every month from 12 to 3 p.m. Look at that door right there. Sui Sing, Chamber of Labor and Commerce. It's amazing to think of it. Most of the Chinatowns from back in the Gold Rush period especially dried up, people moved away. Of course, we have a lot of Chinese Americans living in California today, mostly of a more recent migration. But there were many that stuck it out, and amazingly, Marysville has actually managed to preserve a little bit of that Chinese immigrant history. Some of these oldest buildings here up against the levee do date back from the 1850s, the 1860s. This one on the left that came from a slightly later period was a Chinese school in 1940. The building is still lovingly preserved. In fact, I was just talking to two guys down there who were working on the museum. One of them was doing some restoration work on this building and had to pull out an old clawfoot bathtub that had a date on it dating back to the 1850s. So a lot of actual gold rush history survives here. And there were indeed some of the more salacious elements of your old gold rush towns. You'll notice walking around on even some of the more modern buildings out here, lots of Chinese lanterns, little Chinese trinkets. Still a very active but quiet Chinese population here, Chinese presence here, I should say. Saloons, gambling halls, gunfights, you name it. I'm not just down here in Marysville today to tell you about the old Chinatown. Marysville did indeed build incredible wealth during the gold rush. It was a massive gold rush era boomtown. And there's still so much history down here, so much history to be decoded, so many old buildings to look into, old incredible mansions dating back from the gold rush period. But eventually the economy did have to evolve past the gold rush, and most of the old gold rush downtown Marysville was built over as the town grew and prospered, especially in the late 1890s, then again in the 1920s, and kind of all the way up until the middle of the 20th century, which is why now downtown Marysville is this crazy jumble of layers of all different periods of California history from the 1850s to the 1950s. Just a crazy mix of architectural styles, from some amazing old brick edifices like this massive building, which suffered a fire and has been abandoned, as you can see from the growth there on the awning. Still a very impressive and early structure, all the way up to your sort of big department stores, all the way up to the sort of mid-century department store era. You can still see a lot of old stores' names emblazoned in the sidewalk here. And all the big names were in downtown Marysville at one point. Sears, J.C. Penney, and even an old Woolworth. Today it's Jay's Party Rental and Decor, but look at this, right down on the ground, you can still see the old Woolworth logo right at the entrance to the old store. Walking around here last night, this led me to the conclusion that something is wrong with Marysville, because that seems to be just about the era where time stopped down here. There are, of course, some newer buildings, but downtown seems to have just stopped in the 1950s at the latest. Now, in 1955, there was a huge, massive flood in the area. Marysville is surrounded by rivers out here. So it's possible, of course, that a lot of big investors are like, why am I going to invest in some place that's going to flood out one day? And then, of course, you had the heyday of the American Mall that followed up and put a lot of these old, huge department stores, and we're talking about massive square footage in some of these buildings, out of business on the old main streets. And even if they survived the malls into the 70s or the 80s, then of course you had the rise of Kmart and Walmart and Target and all the other big box stores that kind of shut down a lot of American main streets. That part makes sense. What does not make sense to me, what blows my mind, is that look at all the amazing leftover architecture in downtown Marysville. Everything from historic structures that clearly date straight back to the gold rush. Little shops built in the 19-teens and 20s to these massive, kind of approaching mid-century department stores. With just miles and miles of square footage inside, and yet more than half of them appear to just be abandoned or filled with like kind of random resale shops, things that barely fill up the floor space. You got a rent-a-center, a couple of little pizza places and bars. But for the most part, downtown Marysville is completely dead. Now, we're only an hour away from Sacramento, the capital of California. And as remote and kind of small as the population in the area is, it has been growing and growing over the last 10 years that I've been coming up here, particularly across the river in the much bigger and richer Yuba City. A lot of the businesses that are in Marysville end up moving over there. But that still doesn't explain why this is so quiet and dead. There are still amazing old retail shops here, tons and tons of retail space available to become anything you want it to be. Literally hundreds of beautiful old historic homes in various states of preservation. Some can be picked up for a song, much like the retail space downtown. Most of it, I would say, is vacant or is just kind of home to some vanity projects or very small stores. Clearly, it's very inexpensive to rent out space down here. This should really be like Yuba City's hipster downtown. There should be weird vegan coffee shops down here and taco places, vintage arcades, more bars and tattoo shops, gastro pubs. Like I say, there's a handful of really cool old historic businesses and really cool retail spaces like this. So you got the candy box over here, a very old candy store. Very cool resale shops and antique stores like this one, Sissy's Attic, which we're going to go to in a second, and you'll see what I mean about floor space and retail space in downtown Marysville in the old department stores. But it is not nearly enough. There should be way more down here, and it hurts my brain every time I come down here like, what is wrong with Marysville? I'm not going to be able to answer that question in a day, but it hurts my brain. It's the kind of place I see, the kind of town I see, and I think, oh man, if I only won that Powerball. All right, let's go find my wife. Oh my gosh, you see what I'm saying? Would you look at the size of this place? And clearly this is a little older than the 1950s, but look at this, 2 stories in here. This is not even one of the bigger shops on D Street out there. And there's so much square footage. You could park 20 of my house in this place. Granted, downtown Marysville clearly doesn't get a lot of foot traffic, doesn't have a big, hip, happening nightlife, but I feel like it would only take a few businesses to turn that around. And then all of this downtown would be nothing but opportunity. Dude, holy cow, once I climbed those stairs, I realized the upstairs is not as small as it looks. There's so much space up here. In a lot of these buildings, it doesn't just end with the 2 stories of retail space. Upstairs, you'll have apartments, you'll have residential areas. It's like a colossal hipster downtown waiting to happen. Oh, there's my tiny wife, and I see you have once again discovered your favorite thing, silver trays. Now I know I'm gonna have to buy it for you because it's your birthday, and I have to do anything you want. Happy birthday, Allie.
Thanks.
I love you.
I love you. I think this one's 18.
That's not bad. That's not too bad. Poor Allie. We've been up here for a couple of days now, hanging out with the grandparents, hanging out with the in-laws. We've been staying up all night, eating, talking, doing karaoke. For whatever reason, personally, I have not slept. I have not slept at all, my friends. So whatever you're seeing of me today is about 1/4 brain. Tonight's our last night in Yuba City. She's got her big birthday dinner tonight on her birthday. And then we head straight back down to Southern California. And then a couple days after that, I head out onto old Route 66 for the 100th anniversary. So this is just a quick stopover. I don't have time to decode all of Marysville's history today in one visit. We were walking around here last night. It was absolutely dead. Everything was closed. Nobody was around. And I was like, dude, this is definitely a project, some Marysville history videos. I wanted to at least mention today just how bizarre it is. Marysville makes no sense. What is there, like a lot of corruption? I just don't understand what's going on with downtown Marysville. There are some treasures here, though. Like, look at this. Chimichangas and tacos. Ooh, and look at all the books. Yes. You know there's some treasures up here. I'll be right back. Okay, Allie did eventually make a purchase next door. But look at this. This is what I'm talking about. There's all these little buildings like this that are all closed. There's curtains over the doors. And then you'll see somebody's collections of old antiques and stuff in the windows just to make the building look presentable and make it obvious that it's not completely abandoned. But what is this? This should be like a rad store. It goes as deep as the store we were just in, Sissy's attic. And look at it, it's massive. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna keep cruising down the main drag here with Allie. There was a kind of weird, cool little comic and toy store and sword and knife store last time I came through Marysville and filmed something in this building, but they've also moved on to Yuba City. Even the comic book store couldn't hold out here in Marysville. It makes no sense. Just as an example, from where I live, there's a place called the Orange Circle. They used to be very much like this. Just a couple of weird resale shops, some old antique shops, a lot of empty buildings, and now that place is like hipster paradise, foodie paradise, beer drinkers paradise. Man, all I see around here is opportunity. Anyway, as you can understand, Allie's birthday is kind of the priority on this trip. I don't have a lot of time for rushing around on her birthday and getting into the nooks and crannies of Marysville history, but perfectly tying in to our journey through gold country the other day on the way up here. Yesterday, as I was kind of boning up on my Marysville history, I learned something incredible that perfectly ties into the gold rush history we looked into on the way up here. And it is something that, Allie's birthday or not, I absolutely have to at least peek at today or I'll go insane. But even to go take a peek. Something that, if real, completely changes Old West and especially Gold Rush era legend. But to take a peek, we're actually gonna have to leave downtown Marysville and head someplace that even Allie has never been before. It's just a couple of minutes away, a short drive. We are headed to the historic Marysville City Cemetery that dates all the way back to the Gold Rush. And now it's just over the levee from the downtown proper. And look at this place. This is the quietest, weirdest, most abandoned, forlorn feeling cemetery. A lot of tall grass back there covering ancient graves, and yet you look around over here and there are some more recent things. Flowers and bird baths, and clearly somebody's doing some gardening out here. This is very weird. Definitely somebody taking care of this graveyard. I can already see a lot of graves from the 1880s and earlier. And look at this one. The statue on top may be headless, but this says our darling down here. Mamie Louisa, a little girl who died in 1879. This is amazing. I've never been to this cemetery before. I've never seen it before. Look at this crypt right here for the Lord family. This is just the entrance road. There are so many more clustered here in the back. This is awesome. I've been to a lot of historic cemeteries. I've never seen headstones like this with sort of cradles behind them. Are those like infant cradles? Are they meant to be planters? Look at that. Have you ever seen anything like this before? This is incredible. This cemetery apparently has multiple sections. There's a Jewish section, there's a city marshal section. You just know, I mean, like I said, it's awesome. I don't mean, you know, because look at all the dead bodies. I mean, it's amazing because if you think about it, there must be so many gold rush pioneers, famous and otherwise, living in here, and people from early California history buried in this place. Look at this, native of England, died in 1885, aged 58 years. It's entirely possible that guy right there, W.H. Knight, who is now, as it says, at rest, was here during the days of 49. See, before the Transcontinental Railroad days, right, in the later 1860s, all of these people would have had to get to California and to the gold rush either by coming overland in covered wagons or on foot on the trail, or by taking ships either to Panama and then going overland back then. There was no Panama Canal, through the jungles where they risked malaria and everything else, or down around the southern tip of South America and then the long way up the west coast of the Americas. Say what you want about manifest destiny and westward expansion, but I think these people were extremely brave. They risked an awful lot just to get out here. Cemetery or not, that fills me with a certain kind of reverence. So many like cutesy modern decorations on very old graves out here. And what that usually means, you either have some cutesy volunteers who are coming out here who are just have a very kitschy sense of decorating, or that means you have a lot of their descendants living in the area coming out and tending to the graves. Look at this, some beautiful brickwork with crosses here. Look at this though. There are definitely sections where even the headstones are gone. Even the names have been erased from existence. Allie's running around helping me try to locate what we're looking for here. Somebody who died rather anonymously in Marysville, but may have been secretly one of the most infamous names in the Old West, much less in California history. We are looking for the final resting place of one of the most famous bandits of all time. And this place is a lot bigger than it looked like it was at first. Got a lot of headstones to sort through, although it is a newer headstone we're looking for. Dude, this place is absolutely massive, and there is not a living soul to help us. I can't believe you've never been here, Allie. This is like, you love spooky stuff. This is the spookiest, coolest, most amazing old 19th century cemetery I have ever seen. Look at that one right there. Look at that log right there. Wow. The woodman of the world right there. That is crazy. Whenever I think of woodman of the world, I just think of About Schmidt. And I don't know why. Oh, look at that tombstone back there, buried in that bush. I love how, in the interest of not having a lot of time, I decided to focus on one particular piece of Marysville history, and yet it is taking us quite a long time to find it. I have a feeling it's gonna be one of those things where it was right by where we entered this place. It's absolutely gorgeous though. In Southern California, where I live, you're lucky if you get one of those flat plaques, like a flat headstone. They don't let you get buried like this anymore with these amazing monuments. Some of them are so beautiful and so ornate. I love the family plots with the old cast iron fencing and the gates. I would take me one of those. I'd be cool with that. Although what I really like to have when I'm dead, and this is not a joke, I've mentioned this before, is a crypt like that. Did you find it? Oh, I thought she found it. I want to be buried like the old timey monks were buried until nothing's left but the bones, then dig up the bones, put them in a crypt, articulate the bones, and then open the crypt once a year on my birthday on March 25th. And let people come inside and gaze upon my mortal remains. And furthermore, if I did win that Powerball and there was anything left in the budget, I want them to be animatronic-ized so that they talk, kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean, and they say something like, "Welcome, my friends, to my grave. It is I, Justin. I speak to you from beyond the veil. Gaze upon what was once my earthly body, and know that as you are now, so I once was. And as I am now, so you will be. Memento mori, my friends. Go home and sleep well." I told my recently deceased friend Adam this many times, and he would always say the same thing. He'd always make the same joke, like, "Dude, you know what I should do? I should totally have my headstone just say, 'Join me, shall you?'" Which obviously is not what is going to be put on his final headstone, but he did always love to tell that joke right there Mostly because of how much it would confuse people who didn't have any context for who he was. Look at this crypt right here. That's amazing. Look at the grass growing out of there. We see stuff like this when we travel to France or wherever, but you don't expect to see this in freaking Marysville, California. Oh, I'm lagging behind. I got to catch up with Allie over there. By the way, somehow she's into it right now. Normally when we're outdoors like this and there's bees flying around, she is not a happy camper. She is on the hunt today. On the hunt today. Okay, look at this. Died 1863, so this is clearly a much older section of cemetery, kind of wedged into the corner over here. And I think Allie found it. This has been a rumor and a legend for years and years, but recent scholarship suggests that we may be about to gaze on one of the most infamous stagecoach robbers of all time, a man with possibly the most infamous outlaw name in the annals of Western history. Right here is the grave of a Marysville resident named Charles Wells, who people think may have been Black Bart. Charles Earl Bowles, much better known as Black Bart, was an infamous gentleman stagecoach robber who literally left poetry behind after holding up various stagecoaches, including some operated by Wells Fargo and Company. He was the bane of the famous Wells Fargo detective Jim Hume, somebody I'm a huge fan of, and an absolute legend because when he would rob stagecoaches, he would just stick sticks in bushes sticking out and go, "These are my men back here." He was armed with an unloaded or a fake pistol, and he never fired a shot. He was always pleasant and polite and very, very infamous for committing at least 28 that we know of Wells Fargo robberies. He was finally captured in 1883 after he left a handkerchief behind, and they went laundry by laundry to check out the marks on the handkerchief, traced it to a San Francisco laundry very near to a Wells Fargo office where he'd been living under an alias right under the detective's nose. In fact, people say he used to go into the Wells Fargo office and go, "Oh, how's it going around here? Catch any robbers?" and all that kind of stuff. And then this is the most famous part of the story, right? He spent 4 years in prison, right? Doing hard time for his robberies after being captured in 1883 and then completely disappeared from history. All kinds of historians have had different theories about him changing his name and where he could have moved to. He wanted to live under a different identity, and then completely disappeared from history. Now, he's one of the most famous stagecoach robbers in the West, so there were all kinds of theories that he changed his name. He didn't want to be known as Black Bart anymore, that he continued robbing stagecoaches in other places, or that he peacefully retired in this town or that town. But in the last decade, a new book came out called Black Bart, The Search is Over, and in it, co-authors Wiley Joyner and Robert Jernigan claim to have solved the mystery of Black Bart's disappearance. And like I say, I was completely unaware of this or this book until yesterday, and I've done plenty of reading about Black Bart. This just never came across my desk, as it were. So I don't want to say too much without having read the book, but basically the long and the short of it is they believe that Charles Bowles, aka C.E. Bolton, aka Black Bart, out of San Quentin and then made his way over here to Marysville, a town he would have been very familiar with from his travels around the state, worked quietly as a druggist in a peaceful and retired, upstanding citizen sort of way, and died here in his 80s in 1914. It is absolutely incredible to picture that Black Bart could have moved here and lived a quiet life working in a pharmacy with automobiles going by, right? He lives so long, he sees the horse and buggy start to disappear, early cars replacing things, electric lights, not the way we picture Black Bart, the infamous stagecoach robber. But there it is right there. And the name that he chose to retire under, if the legend, if the story of the scholarship is true, was none other than Charles Wells. Now, having robbed so many Wells Fargo stagecoaches and done hard time in San Quentin, that could just be the perfect alias, right? A final spit in the eye of authority. Even though he retired to live a quiet, peaceable life, just one final finger, I won't tell you which one, at the man. This is an incredible freaking story. The whole tale of Black Bart is incredible. And of course, there's been many books written about Black Bart, many dramatizations of Black Bart's life in terms of film and TV episodes, mostly highly exaggerated, mostly where they just take the name because it sounds so awesome, right? Black Bart, stagecoach robber, and then turn it into a violent, crazy thug or something like that. Not the gentleman bandit that he really was. It absolutely blows my mind to think that he might be here. And look at this, after the book, of course, Marysville decided to put a brand new headstone over this grave that was originally marked with just a little piece of concrete with a number on it, so they did know where Charles Wells was buried. And now, right there on the stone itself, right here, just to the left, if you come inside of the gate, inside of the cemetery gate, there it is, the new headstone. Charles Wells, AKA C.E. Bolton and Black Bart, born as Charles Earl Bowles, 1829 to 1914. And by the way, a Civil War veteran. And we don't know for sure that this is his grave, but apparently this is the best lead out there. I've got to read the book for myself before I want to declare what my personal opinion is. But just in case this is him, I got to come here, doff my hat, pay my respects. All right, I've said my piece to Mr. Wells there, the possible Black Bart, and apologize to him if indeed he wasn't Black Bart. That's a bummer, right? He's sitting there, his ghost is sitting there going, oh, come on. I have wanted to do a video series, a documentary series about Black Bart, or one good long YouTube video about Black Bart for many years now. But the site of his first and a later and his most famous stagecoach robberies are on private land. And I'd really like to get to the actual spot. I had a couple of promising leads a few years ago that kind of came to nothing. It's down there in sort of the Angels Camp, kind of Sonora area where we were the other day. I had a couple of leads a few years ago. It all came to nothing. I haven't really tried again since. So if any of you live in that general area down there in Gold Country, know what I'm talking about and know how to get me on that private property, please reach out. There's so much to say about Black Bart, the infamous highway robber and enemy of Wells Fargo. As for me though now, it is a lot warmer out here than it looks. I am roasting alive. I do not want to join these fine folks yet. So I'm gonna take Allie to go get some food, go see her cousins for a little bit, and then head off to her birthday dinner. By the way, before we leave, I just want to mention that this place was so early in the gold rush and sort of the overland migration. It was established in 1850, this cemetery. So guys have been getting buried here since the days of 49. And it was apparently the first city-owned cemetery west of the Rockies. So that tells you just how prosperous and booming Marysville was over here, right? Not San Francisco, not Los Angeles, not any of the big cities we know today, not even Sacramento, but Marysville, the first city-owned cemetery west of the Rockies. Full of gold rush pioneers. Absolutely incredible place. I highly recommend this. If you're in the area and you've never been here either, I highly recommend a visit. This is awesome. Dude, before my next trip up here, I'm gonna do a whole bunch more research because there's a bunch of amazing graves. There must be so many stories to tell in a place like this. All right, well, that's gonna do it for the Marysville City Cemetery, Marysville, California, just across the river from Yuba City. Shout out to the birthday girl for helping me find the possible grave of Black Bart. Epic. And now, what say we get you some food?
Yeah.
Maybe some ice cream? Go see your cousin Haley, your little cousin Marley, and then later we'll go to your birthday dinner, huh? How's that sound?
Good.
Sound good to you?
Yeah.
All right. Allie loves many things. Antiques, old French movies, others, clothes, electronics, video games, but mostly food and treats. That's the number one thing. And whenever we're in Southern California, where we live now, and she's thinking about her hometown, she's always like, oh, I miss Jim Boy's tacos or whatever. Or Jim Boy's or whatever it is. Any kind of specific, Casa Lupe, any specific Yuba City place. Lee's Canton, or the Dragon Inn in Marysville, where I believe we're going tonight for your birthday dinner. So basically, every time I come up here, we go see the grandparents, the parents, the sister, everybody else that we can. And there's a lot of eating involved. Anyway, there you go. There's our little slice of Gold Rush history for the day. Catch up with you guys in a little while. In the meantime, we're gonna go have some birthday fun and try to cool down. I'm roasting alive in the cemetery. You're wearing all black over here. You're burning up. She's burning to a crisp. Anyway, stop one was Brock's Ice Cream. So Allie can meet up with her cousin, get a little frosty treats. Right across the street from the Sonic, which was the first place we ever met up. Aw, memories. I was coming through town to go see my great uncle up in Grass Valley. And Allie was here and convinced me to stop and say hello. I still haven't figured out how to get rid of her. Ooh, you know what? It turns out we got a little time between Brock's Ice Cream and the Dragon Inn for Allie's birthday dinner. So I'm back at Yuba City's premier attraction, the abandoned Kmart, where one lady got really mad at me in the comments last time for showing this place, and everybody else was like, heck yeah, I love doing donuts out there. And you can see from all the tire marks in this parking lot, that is definitely what this spot is all about. So I am finally gonna do something I've always wanted to do. Something extreme. Donut! 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 I'm doing it, Allie! Allie, I'm doing a donut extreme. Did you see my donut?
Yeah.
Are you impressed? Hashtag Yuba City. What? Hashtag Yuba City style. All right, I'll work on it. I'll work on my donuts for next time. Woo! Actually, I was gonna attempt to really do some donuts in this thing, which I've never done, but the back tire's looking a little less grippy than I want for that. Ooh, maybe if I ever bring the Mustang up here again. I know my donut wasn't the coolest donut, but I kind of feel like you should have told me that it was the coolest donut.
Alright, it was the coolest.
But now you're lying to me, so now I don't want you to tell me that. I don't know what I want! Except for Kmart back. Come back, Kmart! Careful near that Kmart. They find weird stuff in that Kmart from time to time. It's finally time for us to head back to Marysville, back over the bridge once again. All right, we went back over the bridge, back to Marysville, and right next to the Big Blaze Smoke Shop, it's the Dragon Inn. Allie's favorite for rice, and my camera died, so I'm using the phone. Old school detective style. Speaking of old school, this is one old school restaurant. She loves it. Dude, look at that menu. That is some sick artwork. I want to make a Randomland t-shirt and just steal that artwork and just put Randomland restaurant. Look at you. You got your tea?
Yep.
Look at that. Look at the 0.5. It's like a 90s music video in here. Look at this place. It's so old school. It's like the coolest old Chinese restaurant ever. This is what you want to see. Dude, look at that Chinese smorgasbord. And the traditional Chinese dessert right there. That's what you came for? That's all you wanted?
Yes.
That rice.
Perfect.
The Dragon Inn. Hashtag Yuba City, even though it's in Marysville. Hashtag Yuba City. Look at that. So sweet. Yet so sour. Birthday food. While everyone's distracted with their food, I'm just checking out the decor, dude. Look at those old school lamps. The wallpaper. It's all been in here for decades. And I love this. Look at the wood down here. Just a little touch of the local area. A little deer hunting. Do they do this anymore? Do they print wood paneling for your home or business? I don't know. I love it, dude. It's like a little slice of the past. That's why Allie loves it too. But mostly because of that rice. And there they are, all alone. It's like a Christmas story, except for next door, the new owners and the old owners are having a reunion over there. They're having a party over there. Now Allie has a cake and a very big knife. I had to move. I was getting scared. Look at the size of that. That's not a knife. That's a knife. Uh-oh. Now Allie's got her present. She's excited. She's going to be capping foos all over the internet. Oh, no. Well, that was nice. And now the reality of having celiac disease. I'm at Walmart afterwards to get myself the best gluten-free chicken nuggets that there are. At Walmart. For whatever reason, these ones are the best. Still weird ending with my phone, but obviously Allie's going to party on into the night with her grandma hanging out. So that's it. That's it for today. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for going with us to Black Bart's grave. We've done our duty. Go home, sleep well. See you next time. Look at that, you just can't escape them. They're everywhere in Yuba City. Chickens everywhere. I try to spend most of my time hanging out with the chickens. The local crew. What's going on, buddy? Julio sends his regards.